Okay, so good morning. I woke up this morning thinking about these criminals in my life and all that they're getting away with in my life. And I was just even thinking, because I'm getting ready to work on more of my criminal complaints, and I have not heard boo back from the district attorney's office yet concerning the charges that I put in, which I should have added, which I may have added aggravated assault, along with a list of charges for these monsters vaccinating my medically exempt and religiously exempt children. But, and I was just thinking, like, so I have that. Then, they never did anything when my Yorkie Bell was stolen. Well, obviously, all they've done is arrest me. All these violations of the PFA, Murraysville police would never do anything. I'm finding out you can get people in trouble with the police for violating custody orders, and Murraysville police will not interfere when they're keeping my kids from me. He smothered me after I met him and we got into an argument. He was saying he was going to drop the charges, and we got into an argument, and he actually said, I will come, which there's a whole story of this entire day after he increased my charges from a simple assault to a strangulation felony on the stand. And then we met immediately afterwards and went to Juniper Grill, and you saw me there with my pen and paper trying to work out any fucking deal under the sun just to get him to stop this. And this was only just like 2 months into our separation. So, and he said he would come tap on the glass and see me when I was in jail, and he would tap on the glass. And this is before, like, I'd only done like a couple hours in the Murraysville jail at this point. Had no intentions of ever going back to jail for any of this. But regardless, and then I have the other charges that I just don't even want to discuss, but that are all in my protection from abuse order that my attorney had me turn into the police to get him charged with that stuff. This is after him just continuing to abuse and abuse and abuse and abuse me. I didn't even know. I didn't want to. I'm not into this whole call police thing. He was, and Murraysville police knows that. And now I'm in a trap. So can I sue the state? Can I sue the state for letting these criminals get away with doing this to me and my children? I think that I can. I've been told that before. No attorney knows how or wants to do that. Yeah, they want to sue Geno, but they're not going to. They don't know nothing about suing the state, and that could fuck up their job. So it's going to be something I'm going to have to do. My dog is biting my ankles, but with that being said, I can talk about this stuff till I'm blue in the face. I just have to start doing it. I'm going to submit the rest of my criminal complaints and next. And then I'm going to start my protesting. And then, I didn't talk to my oldest son last night and blah, 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 blah. So, we'll see what happens Sunday. I didn't get to see them this last Sunday. They're hours late every Sunday if they do come, or they try to at least keep one from me. And how long has this been going on? This is legal abuse. Look at that article I just posted on my Facebook regarding legal abuse that can go on for years because the other person is trying to control the other person and make the other person suffer, which in turn makes children suffer, and that is what is happening here. So, but I wanted to discuss my dad's death, and I don't know if hopefully I can get it all out, but I shared that about that funeral home in Columbus, and it reminded me of what I went through with the funeral home in Carlisle, Trinity Cremation. And then I got to talk to my aunt yesterday, briefly, in Ohio, because some weird person that looks like a fake account is trying to find my cousin, supposedly. And I needed to let her know that they're trying to find my cousin, and what do you need with her? And why are you even contacting me? Why don't you contact, like, her mom? So anyways, But I just realized, because I've been dealing with all of this and my car was totaled, or near totaled, and then a tow truck driver, so a tow truck hit my car, and then another tow truck driver showed up to save the day and stole my car. And yes, so, and then I ended up getting my car back, but this took like a long time, like almost 2 months of me renting a car and dealing with this mess. So, and I do wonder if that was a setup done to me on purpose. So let's get to my dad. Okay, so that was, I moved in here, like, I forget, like the end of May, and then like a week later is when my car was totaled, and then, or near totaled, it's fixed now. And then July 11th is when they found my dad, but it could have been, I don't know, it was like the 10th or 11th or 12th, that Sunday, and into Monday they found him. So my brother Chris had Skyped with him, like did a video call with him on Sunday, and said that he was perfectly fine, like in good spirits, blah 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 blah. And then, and my brother talks to my dad every single day. And so my other brother Scott, I'm sure you guys have heard of me talk about Scott and Alicia. Alicia is my brother's girlfriend, who lives in my grandma's house, and that's where my dad was living. So my dad had a brain aneurysm. So he did have a brain aneurysm. What was that now? 17 years ago or something like that. And it caused him to make bad financial decisions and business decisions, and he became highly religious from the moment he had that brain surgery, and he gave away everything that he owned, and he lived the rest of his life like that. So, many of you know that he used to be like a multimillionaire, and then he basically went from like riches to rags. But he didn't care, like, he didn't, I don't know. So, but he was just all about helping people, and like he gave all of his money away, everything he owned, everything, which that was, I remember when he started giving everything away in his entire house, and I was there, and Christian was like 9 days old, and I was crying, and he had this church music blasting on the speakers out through the whole country, and all of these people that I did not know from Miamisburg, from the mission, from the church, were coming and taking his stuff. All of his suits, all of his Rolexes, everything. So me and Gino took a washer and dryer, a rug. I don't have a picture, a huge painting that Gino ended up putting a hole through, and I don't know. I think we got like a couch and a love seat. So anyways, and then he moved into my grandma's house on Main Street, which he bought that house from my grandparents years ago, and paid it off and paid it in full for them. And so my grandma had always told me that the house was willed to me, and then my grandma died 3 years ago, who I love my grandma more than she's one of the people I've loved most in life, next to my children and my dad and my other grandparents and everybody else. But anyways, so my grandma was all set about keeping a place for Ralphie. That is my dad, her son, her oldest son, because she was worried that he was not right anymore, per se, or that he would have another brain aneurysm, and she just didn't want him, So anyways, I'm not going to kick my dad out of the house if the house is willed to me. And right before my grandma died, my dad told me that my grandma changed the will and made it where me and my 3 brothers split the sell the house, split it 3 ways, and then Jeff and Timmy, my dad's brothers, get $1,000 each. And my dad would get nothing. But so anyways, but I had never seen this will because I wasn't expecting my dad to die, and so that's the will. So the will is missing. So then I was trying to move back to Ohio, and we were going to move into that house. And this is before my brother and Alicia lived there. And I didn't even know if we were going to stay long term, me and the kids, but maybe. And I was going to live there with my dad and my kids until maybe I rented something else, or maybe I would stay there. So, but then, my relocation hearing was denied, and then I went to jail, basically. So then while this was happening, Alicia and Scott and my nephew Scotty all moved in to my grandma's house and have never left. So then my dad died, and now the will is like, the will is in there. But when I came into town to get Romeo, my dog, who my dad took in for me temporarily, which turned out to be 2 years of me and Gina split, and I was moving into this rental house and hoping to move back to Ohio, he had Romeo for me. And he loved Romeo, and they got along great. He loved Romeo so much, and vice versa. So anyways, Romeo is staying out there because they love each other and it's a good fit for him at the time. And I'm thinking I'm going to be moving in there. So then I go to jail. Then all the plans are ruined, and then my dad dies in July. So then time goes on. I did live with my dad during COVID for a couple of months when I had attorney Joe Nicotero, who was telling me I could still move the kids back to Ohio and all of these things. What a joke. So they're all living in this house, and my dad is always on the go. He's always on the go. He is always helping people and neighbors and talking to people and going into town and going to the grocery and cooking food for people and taking them food, and doing things for my brother and my nephew and for everybody. Alicia. So, and he gets up early, and he was supposed to go to my Uncle Timmy's, and Timmy was either going to help my dad work on his car, he's going to help Timmy work on his car, I can't remember. And he never showed up, which is not like my dad to not show up, and that's what Timmy said. He's always on time, always shows up. And my brother Chris is calling him, and he's not answering. And it was getting later into the evening, and Timmy and my brother are trying to get a hold of my dad and cannot. So then they start trying to get a hold of Scott, and Scott stays up all night and sleeps all day, basically. So I don't know what time it was, Monday, later in the evening, after he'd been dead since in the middle of the night, Sunday, they think. Dead in the house all day long, and Alicia is up moving around, and so is my nephew Scotty. Alicia the most. She's always buzzing around into everything in the house. So how they didn't notice that my dad was dead downstairs is beyond me. So finally, my brother Chris gets a hold of my brother Scott. I think Alicia answered the phone. I forget. And he said, "Can you please go check on Dad because he's not answering?" And I guess he basically was having to demand, because I guess they were what? Scott's well, I'm laying down, blah blah, and he's no, I know, please check on him. So I guess Alicia or Scott hollered down the stairwell. Hollered, no answer. And then they go downstairs. My brother Chris is on the phone, and they find my dad dead. And Timmy showed up, I think, the next day because he was looking for my dad and knew it wasn't, or that, I forget. But then Alicia, like, answered the door and said, Ralphie died. And when Timmy came. So, but that was after they found it. So then the coroner, so I guess they called 911, and the coroner or the police come, and they took statements from everyone in the house. They took my dad's cell phone, and they took pictures of my dad and the whole place. And then my brother, so I am at Juniper Grill here in Murraysville having dinner, and it's like Monday night, and I get a text from my mom that says, your dad's dead. Or your dad died, just like that. And I'm like, what the fuck? So at that point, my brother Chris was calling me, I think is how it happened. And I was just like in shock. I went outside, and my friend Krista works there. She came outside, and or no, yeah, that's basically what happened. I don't think I talked to, I can't remember. I don't think I talked to my brother Chris yet. So then I go home. I talk to my ex-friend Jen, and she was like, you need to call your mom and find out what the hell happened, because I'm like trying to call everyone back but my mom, because I have not talked to my mom, and I thought that was a really cold way to tell me that my dad died. So Jen calls my mom, and Jen talks to her for a minute, and then Jen just like forces me to get on the phone with my mom, which I didn't want to talk to her. And I just talked to her real briefly, and she was being really weird and not giving me a lot of answers. So I get a hold of my brother Scott at some point, and I'm just like wondering what this is going to be like. So I wanted to make it as cordial as possible. So I'm like, I'm coming in to get Romeo. Like, we need to make arrangements. Well, he was like not wanting to make arrangements at all. He was wanting to put it off. And I was like, we cannot put it off, because when people die, you have to do something with their body. And I know you like to procrastinate, but yeah. So I start shopping for funeral homes, then he starts shopping for them. Somehow we came up, we both liked Trinity, and it was close, and it seemed nice, and I felt like I drove by and it looked peaceful. So there was a whole drama with that, because it turned into him wanting to procrastinate to him suddenly wanting him cremated immediately when we found out that it was under investigation. And Scott was telling me all of this suspicious stuff, and Alicia on the phone, and when I got there. So, okay. So, like, basically, like, saying there's suspicion around this, or could be like, this is weird. The police took statements. The police are treating this as a potential homicide. But I am just not hearing this. Like, I am just on my way into town. Like, no fucking way. Well, then I go to the crematory place, the cremation place, and they tell me that it is a coroner's case, meaning it's under investigation, and that they can't do anything, that he is on ice, Montgomery County coroners, and I need to call the investigator there. So I start calling. Well, then at this point, I had already been to my dad's house. So they said that, they're looking into it. They're going to call me back, blah, 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 blah. Well, they ended up just like closing the case and saying natural causes. And I really don't know why my dad died. And I feel like I should have more than natural causes, because I know he didn't die from natural causes. Maybe he had a brain aneurysm. It's possible, but then you should tell me brain aneurysm, So So I get to the house on Main Street, and there are signs on the door. They tell me my dad has posted signs, and actually my mom had mentioned this, and it was just really aggravating because I was just like, what the fuck are you talking about, these signs? And I just didn't think that my dad put the signs up, but maybe he did. So, and I have pictures of the signs, and I'm pretty sure I have them posted in my comment section on my newest Facebook account that says, that shows the signs on the door. Pretty sure I posted all the signs. But basically, it's like telling them to go away or something like that. And then on the inside of the door, where Scott and Alicia and Scotty would come down the stairs to answer the door, he has a sign posted to them, like, if someone will not go away, call the sheriff, and has a sheriff's phone number or something. And then Alicia said that there was a guy that my dad had been giving money to, some lowlife, it sounds like, that would not leave him alone and kept coming into the house, but she wasn't sure who it was, but he was telling them, like, don't answer the door, blah, blah, blah. And then she said that he started sleeping with a shotgun. And so, like, I was not sure that I believed any of these stories, but it's possible that it's true. And that he started sleeping with a shotgun, like, in the recent days. And that at night he was, like, going out and looking out front, out back, like, before he went to bed. And, like, making sure, like, no one's out there, whatever. Oh, and Romeo, my dog Romeo, almost died like 2 weeks before my dad died, and those text messages with my dad I may have posted on his thing too, on his Facebook post about his death. He texted me and said, I think Romeo is dying. He texted me one night, and I'm like, what? You know? And then the next day he said he's better now, but he was paralyzed, and I nursed him back to health. I'm like, what are you talking about? So anyways, so Alicia also tells me and my brother that the safe, this like 800-pound safe, gun safe in the basement is missing. Okay? And this is where Geno is also in town when my dad dies, and he never goes in town to Ohio. He hates going back in town to Ohio. But his dad, his parents live in Kettering. And so I found out that my kids were left home alone, and my daughter completely home alone, while he was out of the state. And Melissa was on like a flight attending thing, which fuck her, I'm glad she's gone. He and the kids are like home alone. The boys were with their friends for a little bit, and then I threw a stink, and then Melissa's aunt came the next day to bring them here. But he messaged me. Well, I said, why is your dad in Ohio? And one of my kids said, because Dad's dad, because they're not close with them, Dad's dad is, I think he's dying, he said. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Well, I start like getting like really upset. Like, it really bothered me that my father-in-law like might be dying. And it bothered me that my kids were here left alone, and I'm 5 minutes down the road. Yeah. So Alicia and Scott, which I could almost believe, so there is a walkout basement. There is a door that goes out to the basement. I didn't think that there was, but there is. And there is an 800-pound gun safe down there that is missing. And so I don't want to point blame to anyone. Like, I mean, I'm just thinking, like, did Judge Benoni have my dad killed? Because she knows he's somebody who is able, my only family member to help me in some sort of way, you know, come to my court hearings, blah, 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 come pick me up from jail, da, da, da. So, or did Geno, I mean, all these different scenarios crossed my mind. Like, did my dad know he was going to die and told Geno to come in and he's given him the gun safe? Because where the fuck did the gun safe go? I'm sorry. That would be so, that I can just see something like this happening, okay? Because now my dad is a philanthropist and he hates what Geno's done to me, and he hates Geno, and he thinks Geno should go to jail. But my dad has this side where he thinks if he gives people things that they'll do the right thing, okay? So he could have been like, I'm going to give you this gun safe. Because Geno just like came right into town and then came right back in like a day. And it happens to be the day, Sunday, my dad died Sunday night. And then this gun safe is missing. So I think that someone could actually get a gun safe out of the house without my brother knowing that he's upstairs on the 3rd floor zonked out. But not Alicia. And Alicia steals things and sells things, and that's what she does for a living. And when my grandma died, Alicia sold like almost everything my grandma owns. And when I lived there, she was selling some of my things as well. So it crossed my mind that she had ran out of things to sell, and neither of these people work, and that she drugged my dad and drugged him too much, and maybe did a test trial on Romeo or something to get the safe out. I mean, these are scenarios, and I'm pointing a lot of fingers, but I can't stand this woman, for one. And she made the end of my grandma's life. She really fucked with my grandma because they lived there before, and then they moved out and whatever. And she threatened to beat my ass when I asked for the will. So basically we get this like settled, and then I want the will, a copy of it, so we can get this settled, which is going to be money for all of us, because everyone knows even the older houses, well, they're all older on Main Street, are going for a lot of money. And I don't know how long they can house squat, but anyway, so I'm running out of time here. But I was not able to have a funeral for my dad. I wanted to bring my kids and have like some sort of celebration of life for my dad like later, because I was trying to plan this with Geno. And of course, this is another form of control and abuse, is he is not allowing, he doesn't care that my dad died, and he's not allowing my kids to come to any type of funeral, and neither is the fucking judge. And Adam Gorzelski, my kid's guardian ad litem, Geno, had him messaging me. They were messaging me when I was in Ohio dealing with my dad's death, and like harassing me over messages I sent Christian while he was at church camp, which they only know because I told the fucking dumbass church something about me messaging Christian, but who knows? They look at his phone. But anyways, because I'm worried about my kids at church camp getting fucking brainwashed by these insane psychotic idiots who have done a bigamous marriage and need criminal charges pressed against them too. But regardless, I love my dad. I miss my dad. He was an amazing man, and was the most impressionable man of my entire life, next to my grandpa Fields and some other significant people in my life. Ryan, and now Geno, but obviously good and bad impressions, but those are the closest men to me in my life, for better or for worse. But I love my dad. He taught me so much. So I could have never learned what I know today without having a dad like him. And anybody who knows my dad knows exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm sure I about drove him bonkers growing up, and I wanted to open a doggy daycare at his house, blah, blah, blah. Oh, and then I wrote an obituary for him, because I'm like, well, my dad is worthy. He's done all these amazing things of a wonderful obituary. So I wrote it, and it was kind of like winded, and then Jen trimmed it for me, who is my ex-friend, who now has kidnapped and won't return mine and my dad's dog, Romeo, which is just insane. So anyways, maybe I'll have a lawsuit here, because I am going to file these criminal complaints. And if the police and the district attorney's office just continue to refuse to help me and only hurt me, then I'm going to try to sue them. So I hate to be that way. I don't want to be living this life. But read that article that I posted. This is court abuse to make me suffer, and people are making money off of us and destroying our lives, and they get off on it, like I said, and it's true. But regardless, thank you for anyone who made it this far into my video and listened. And rest in peace, Dad. I love you, Dad. And I will always remember everything about you. The happiest day, one of the happiest days, or most exciting days of my dad's life, is when his horse Metropolis won the Little Brown Jug. And we used to go in the limo, and he used to take me to Yellow Springs, and we would go eat dinner at the Winds. And I still have a piece of pottery here that somehow survived everything. And my dad got this piece of pottery for me at that pottery place in Yellow Springs. And he introduced me to all kinds of people in my life and taught me all kinds of business things. And he was an inventor, and he's highly creative, and we're a lot of like. We're a lot of alike, but I'm a little bit softer than him most